They absolutely are taking the fun out of football. The whole point, the reason all of us here fell in love with football in the first place is because we want our team to score, win games, win trophies, have these moments of pure elation.
And that game is not finished. Those substitutes should not be on the field. Those coaches shouldn't be out of their technical area, although I'm not sure Arteta's ever been in a technical area.
Shebahn Aherne, and with me today from The Sun, Mr. Dean Scoggins and Mr. Will Pugh. We are here to debate some topical issues in football. You might have your opinion on this. Feel free to leave it in the comments. Are the fun police taking the fun out of celebrating in football? This, of course, comes after Arsenal's 97th minute winner. They were 2-0 down against Bournemouth and then ended up going to win the game 3-2 thanks to Reiss Nelson in the 97th minute against second bottom of the league side, Bournemouth. Will, what was your thoughts on that moment?
They absolutely are taking the fun out of football. The whole point, the reason all of us here fell in love with football in the first place is because we want our team to score, win games, win trophies, have these moments of pure elation. That's why we all go back time and time again, no matter how good or bad our club is. Arsenal on course for their first title in about 704 years. They come back from behind at home, albeit to Bournemouth, and people are quick to sneer and go, but you've got to beat what's in front of you. They looked like they were going to lose the game. They picked up a vital 3 points with a midfielder who the fans are in love with. He's one of their own, all that sort of thing. If that's not a moment to erupt and express the pure elation that is football, then what's the point of us all going?
The FA are investigating this because several players from the bench and a young fan run onto the pitch as well. Dean, what's your thoughts? Is that something fans should celebrate with their team or no?
Well, fans should absolutely not be on the playing surface for a start. I take it I'm the fun police here, as we've talked about. But look, yes, all right, it's Arsenal. I've mentioned Tottenham already, but and yes, they look like they're going to win the title. And let's be clear, it's theirs to lose from here on in. But what I would say is that is fine at the final whistle. At the final whistle, when the game is finished, bench, substitutes, ball boys, if you like, because they're allowed to be within the playing surface, that is fine. Not at 3-2 in injury time when the game is still alive. Potentially, I know there was best part of 10 seconds to go. Potentially, though, Bournemouth did score in 7 seconds or 10 seconds at the start of that game.
That's a good point. And
that game is not finished. Those substitutes should not be on the field. Those coaches shouldn't be out of their technical area, although I'm not sure Arteta's ever been in a technical area. He spends so much time outside of it. And I go and want to celebrate goals. Spurs haven't scored for 3 games, so I'm forgetting what it feels like. But I want to go and celebrate goals. Yes, pure elation. Yes, that's what we're there for. But it's 3-2. The game is still going. That game isn't finished. And there are these rules and laws there for a reason, to protect the players and to make sure that that spectacle is what we all want it to be.
It's taken, I think, one answer from each of us for us to go, oh, it's back on officials again, because it's then for the referee to add that time on, isn't it? I do agree, you can't have that, and you wouldn't have had it, to be fair. You wouldn't have had the subs running on, and the ball boy, the cameramen, whoever else started to get involved in those Arsenal celebrations. You didn't have it with the goals earlier in the game. You wouldn't have had it unless it was in that very specific circumstance, right at the death of the game. It was a comeback to win the Premier League, etc., etc. You wouldn't have had that unless it was that. So I think in the rare occasion that that does happen, and that perhaps the substitutes overreact a little bit more, because that's really all the problem was, wasn't it? The subs coming off the bench. Yeah. I think in that instance, the rare occurrence that happens, the referee to go, maybe book some players if he wants, like he would if they took a shirt off. But ultimately the ref goes, right, okay, actually that goal went in about 2 minutes ago. We had a minute left, so I'm going to make sure I play 3 minutes from here to allow Bournemouth to get back in the game and not be a victim of that over-celebration. But I think it happens so rarely, and it was a comeback win. So
it was quite an incredible, dramatic comeback at this stage of the table, and the fact that they secured the 5-point lead once again. But there are several contradictory people in this world. For example, Piers Morgan, who went to Twitter to talk about the time he was crying in that moment, you know, when Bournemouth managed to be defeated by Arsenal in the 87th minutes, but then was making fun of Manchester United players celebrating winning the Carabao Cup. You know, there are so many people who have an opinion, but it's your team, it's your investment, it's your love, it's where you invest and spend your time and money and follow this club around, that these fans should be entitled to be happy in these moments. And if it is a young fan running on the pitch at 97th minute, it just shows the beauty of football and how it affects people.
Not the fan coming on the field, no, absolutely not. And we had the same with a Liverpool fan who nearly injured Andy Robertson because he slipped as he arrived when Liverpool was celebrating a goal. Jurgen Klopp, quite rightly, and I don't often agree with Jurgen Klopp, but Jurgen Klopp, quite rightly, absolutely furious at that fan. I thought he was about 20, but it turns out he's 16 years old. So at that point, you've got to look at stewarding, security, the people who. I mean, if it was my son who went on, he would have got about 3 feet away from me before his hood was pulled and he was coming back to be celebrate, yes, but not on the field of play. Going back to Piers, I mean, Piers contradicted himself. Well, yeah, I know we're getting used to it, aren't we? But yeah, look, again, all for celebrating. I'm not sure I'd cry if we beat Bournemouth. I'd like to add Spurs did come back to beat Bournemouth 3-2 from 2-0 down earlier in the season as well, and I didn't cry. I also didn't enter the field of play, but we had a lovely day out after it.
Were you 5 points clear at the top of the table?
No, we weren't, but we weren't as far behind Arsenal then as we are now. But yeah, look, I'm not saying we shouldn't celebrate. I'm not saying that we need fun police to use that phrase, but there has to be a line. And one of the great moments we can go back and talk about in the Premier League when Man United scored the late goal which won them the title, and you had the Brian Kidd sort of on his knees on the edge of the pitch and Sir Alex Ferguson doing a weird sort of jump leap celebration which we'd never seen before. Jose Mourinho running down the touchline to the fans in the Champions League and the knee slide at Old Trafford. They are great moments. If you look at those though, they were fairly well controlled in the areas that they were supposed to be. There wasn't 10 subs, coaches, whatever, jumping on the field. You see that picture of Arsenal celebrating and there are more jackets and coats than there are shirts. And so that is then the bench being too many on the field. I'd like to add there are a couple of Arsenal players who quite rightly were controlling themselves and were back and saying this game's not done, get back here. Just as Casemiro was for Man United when they were going ahead in the League Cup. This isn't won yet. Players who have won big trophies before, who know what it takes to win big trophies.
A mentality thing, perhaps.
Absolutely,
there.
Yeah.
Also, there's the taking the top off celebration as well. Now, we know that that's been a ban in place and a rule in place since 2004. And if you do it, you get your yellow card. But some of the most famous moments in football, for example, more recently with Chloe Kelly and that winning goal for the Lionesses at the Euros, is actually a picture now on my wall. And that's coming from the Better Scotswomen, with the top above her head. And then Sergio Aguero, the moment that Manchester City beat QPR to win the Premier League. Aguero! And the top's over his head. And then they still get a yellow card at the end of that. So you mentioned this earlier on, players know the rules at that point. It's whether they're willing to take the hit.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those instances you mentioned there, a yellow card would have been produced. Who really cares? If you're that player, in the moment, first of all, when Sergio Aguero, Chloe Kelly, whoever it might be, puts the ball in the back of the net to win a huge award or trophy, whatever it might be for their team, when that goes in, they're not going, oh no, hang on a minute, I don't want to get a yellow. Yeah, that doesn't come into
I'm not
their
quite
head.
sure where the whole, I know what I'll do, I'll take my shirt off comes from. Maybe I don't go to the gym enough. But
I was going to say...
That's sort of that feeling of, whoa, hang on a minute, I'm going to take my shirt off. But yeah, I get it. But the yellow card is there for a reason. But again, going back to that links back to what we were saying before, that those other rules are there for a reason as well.
So do you feel you need a rule like that for all this over-celebrating before the game is finished?
Yeah, and look, if those Arsenal players, when they score against Bournemouth, are all in the corner celebrating, whether shirts are on or off, the people jumping on top of each other, and therefore those subs that are there at the corner are not on the field of play, but there's a line, literally a line that you don't need to cross. And that they can all celebrate together. They can celebrate with the fans. It's the same as we don't want to see players jumping into crowds, and that's why there's these pits round pitches and fences and whatever. There's got to be some sort of protection. I don't want to stop players celebrating. I want to see players knee sliding because they give us great pictures for the newspaper when they do that. And when they take their shirts off, it's fantastic picture and all that. But I mean, Richarlison scores a goal, takes his shirt off, goes to the crowd. The goal got ruled out for VAR.
That is funny.
And the yellow card doesn't get taken away because he's removed his shirt. I mean, that's just madness, isn't it? What are you doing?
Some of these, the most iconic images we've ever seen, you've mentioned it already in football, and iconic moments that we remember forever, no one ever looks back and goes, that was a bit much.
No, but they weren't 3-2 against Bournemouth.
True. Even that, it's so hard to get into the Premier League is such a huge achievement, and then you make fun of the team who are beaten because they're second bottom of the Premier League. It's like, it's so hard for fans to get it right.
But in a sort of, on that point, in a slightly different way, if Bournemouth had won 3-2 with a goal in the last minute at the Emirates, that to me is bigger. That's a bigger thing.
Would have 3 points taken them out of the drop zone?
Yes, and that they need those. You can argue they need those points as much as Arsenal do, and that would have been the shock, not the other way around. Yes, I see the point of, and look, that they've got this sort of bandwagon rolling, Arsenal. That's what's happening. It's sort of, and Arteta is whipping it up. He knows if they keep this momentum going in this way, and this whole sarcastic taking the mick out of referees and his behaviour on the touchline. I actually think he knows what he's doing. He's not lost in the moment. I think he knows that he's doing this to keep the crowd with them. They've done a brilliant job at Arsenal of getting the noise level up in the stadium and stuff like that as well. But that comes with that edge, and that's when that line can be crossed.
What should the fine be then? Because we're
6
talking
points.
about punishing. Yeah.
That would keep it interesting though,
6
wouldn't
point
it?
deduction minimum.
But realistically, for subs running on the pitch like that, and it's a sort of one-off thing, I think we're both agreed that we're calling for, if we don't want to see things in football, clamp down is the answer, because ultimately it is. If bans are longer, if the punishments get harsher, that's the only thing players and clubs respond to. What should in this instance?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to Bruno Fernandes and the Man United players surrounding a referee. It's failing to control your players, and so it's between a 40 and 50,000 fine at the moment for failing to control your players.
Is that going to stop them?
They don't care,
No.
but at least there's a rule to be adhered to. And I think it's 4 games out of 6 that Arsenal have been charged with failing to control their players. So at some stage, that level of fine, we don't care. That's only
Throw them out the league.
Well, no, it's just 6 point deduction is fine.
And it would change everything. Like you say, it's starting to become more and more of a theme with Arsenal. But what would be hard is to watch players and fans not be so joyous when they achieve something huge like that. And I think just for that reason, I have to declare Will the winner of this debate, because the idea of Manchester United probably and possibly, winning a competition under such dramatic circumstances and knowing that they can't celebrate off the bench or squad players is hard to accept as a football fan.